About 2 years ago, the state legislature passed a renewable energy bill for the state of North Carolina. It's actually the first in the entire southeast part of the country. For municipals like PWC, the requirements are about 10% by year 2018. Now, if you are a Progress or Duke customer, their requirements are a little higher. They have to meet 12.5% of their total energy needs by renewable energy. And within that, there are different set-asides or requirements such as solar, swine waste, poultry waste, and biomass. So within that 10%, we also have to have within, by 2010 in these step-up years, so much of each set-aside of renewable type of energy. So one of the things we're working on, you look around to see what's available to you. Renewable energy, of course, is what's around you in your environment. For us, it's solar and for pretty much any type of biomass project. Those are usually the low-hanging fruit of the whole thing. One of the projects we're looking at is installing a methane recovery system at the Cross Creek water treatment facility. Basically, through the process of wastewater recovery, they create methane. Methane is basically a big part, or most of, natural gas. More or less, we're getting free fuel out of that product. The big bonus on that is it's what they call a combined heat and power project, meaning you recover the heat that's generated off that unit as well. The reason I bring this up is because that efficiency is about 70% efficient, total energy efficient for energy generation. I compare that to a coal plant, which is about on average 28% energy efficient. So we're getting about 40% more efficiency just by this one project. That's just on the methane side or the biomass side. We're also looking at solar. We're not completely finalized on our plans right now, but one of the projects we're giving a lot of attention to is the New Century School. They're hoped to be one of the first, if not the first, net zero schools in the entire country, and without question, first in the southeast in the state. So we hope to be a big part of that and be an active member of that project. That'd be about 1 megawatt or so of solar power. And then finally, with the swine and poultry, we're working with all the other North Carolina energy providers and working with them on big projects instead of just finding projects that are just for PWC. On a really hot day, when everyone's air conditioners are running, the sun's out, we're about 450 megawatts worth of power. So we need approximately 10% of that. So we're looking around, 45 megawatts, give or take, of renewable energy by the year 2018. We're actually very lucky to be in North Carolina. North Carolina is a very incentivized state for renewable energy. About 70%, 75% of all solar power can be received through tax credits. 30% of that, 35%, is through the state, 30% through the federal. So the payback on solar is actually quite good for North Carolina residents. You can get a payback between 5 to 7 years, and everything beyond that will be free power. The nice thing we're seeing about solar is that the technologies are developing extremely rapidly. We're seeing efficiencies double in some cases through every year. The other part of it is the silicon that goes in solar. They're starting to build more silicon production facilities, which is bringing the price of solar panels extremely low, and that's helped drive the supply of solar panels and demand as well. There's two areas we're tackling the energy efficiency side of the bill. One is through our business development, help funding some energy upgrades, whether that is HVAC systems or weatherization. And the bigger piece that we're looking at is our smart grid system, which allows us to measure how much energy efficiency is being used by the customer. And the way we're allowed to do that is by working with the customer. If the customer would go out and put in a programmable thermostat on their own, PWC would not be able to measure that, and therefore we would not be able to use that for compliance. But the fact that if they use a PWC-sponsored program such as SmartWorks, we can figure out exactly how much power they would have used as opposed to how much they consumed, and we can file that for our REP compliance. So the meaning behind all that is if PWC works with our customers, we all can save on money and we all can save on our electric bills. Renewable energy is pretty expensive when you compare it to traditional sources of fossil fuel generation and whatnot. Part of that is basically just technology advancements. With any technology, the more accessible, the cheaper it becomes, and that's what we're starting to see with the renewable technologies already. We're looking for investors to help with us, not so much to fund the projects, but work with us to reduce costs. In the state of North Carolina, the government's working with us as well to make sure that we're providing least cost renewable power as cheaply as possible. For the next power supply contract, Progress Energy will be supplying all of PWC's energy needs. We had the option to allow Progress to cover all of our renewable obligations, so we wouldn't have to do anything essentially ourselves. But we chose to invest these funds in the city, in the community, and use job growth as an incentive to do these projects. So instead of Progress funding a renewable projects, let's say somewhere in the western or far eastern part of the state, we can bring these projects and these jobs right here to Fayetteville. We operate about a third of our customer demand from natural gas generation. Natural gas is one of the most clean burning fossil fuels that's out there. These units are somewhat old, so we've been looking to replace them with newer, cleaner, more efficient units. One of the things we've been looking at doing is reducing how much nitrous oxide we put in the air. We've been going through several upgrades over the past few years to basically improve the air quality around the city through these upgrades, these improvements. For especially North Carolina, I would say renewable energy is key, especially when you start looking at some of the swine waste issues we have. There are more hogs in North Carolina than there are people. That being the case, a lot of that waste is getting into our water supply, getting into our food supply, and I can't speak enough of what a problem that is to be able to continue to consume that waste. We need to clean it up. The energy side needs to be just as much a part of it as the farmer side. We cannot continue to live the way we do. It's not sustainable. We continue to do serious harm to ourselves.